Hello everybody, welcome back to Polygon Live. My name is Chris Plant. Today I am joined by the team from Futurlab to show Velocity 2X. I have James Marsden, the game's director, and I have Kirsty Rigdon, the lead designer. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having us.
I am such a fan of basically the series, I guess, at this point, as are the people who are standing behind the cameras right now, who some of them have perfected the game and make me look like an absolute mess when I try it.
Awesome.
But I'm hoping you can tell people just a little bit about the games, really, and kind of the origins for people who might not know.
Okay, so Velocity started as a PlayStation Minis game. We just published our first game, Coconut Dodge, which you might have seen. It's a little crab on a beach that moves left and right, and coconuts fall from the sky. And we thought, what else can we make with the same kind of code that we've got? And Robin thought, if you change the crab into a spaceship, then you can have the things that are falling down make that terrain, and then the ship feels like it's flying upwards. So we thought we can make a space shoot 'em up. And
you'd also written a bit of music.
Yeah.
So the original music in Velocity, Joris came in and mastered it and made it sound much better than it was. But James had written some music and it sounded like a space shooter.
Yeah.
I've been working on a track since university for about 10 years. And every year I'd learn a new production skill and try making that track again.
Yeah.
And because I haven't got the skill really. But I finally got it to a point where it sounded half decent and it just sounded like an 80s retro shoot 'em up. So we thought, perfect timing, let's do that.
That's hysterical to me, because once people see this game later on in the show at its highest level, a little thing dodging coconuts
A little crab,
does not quite sound like what we're about to see. So great, I guess let's kind of hop into it and kind of talk about it from there. So we'll start on, I guess this is the very first level of the game.
No.
It's not actually. We've given you a select bunch of levels to show. This is actually level 10.
Okay.
So you've got used to shooting your gun and coming across turrets and things, and learn how to teleport backwards and forwards. We've improved quite a few things about this game over the original. One of them is that the cursor now moves faster when you're over terrain, which makes it much easier to just hop across like this, which is a good thing. I just died, that's not good. We improved so the whole engine's completely rewritten from scratch, so the collision detection, physics systems reworked, and we've looked at adding another genre onto the game. So you start off in your spaceship, and then you can dock, and then you're on foot, and it's an instantaneous thing. You can just get in and out of your ship.
We tried to map all the controls so that whatever you do in the top down, you're doing exactly the same thing in the platforming sections. And then you can boost, so when you're in the top down, if you hold down the right trigger, you'll boost. Ditto, she sprints if you hold right trigger down in the platforming sections.
We were talking before the show about Master Blaster, which was like one of my favorite games of my childhood. And the idea of like being in that ship and then this kind of separate thing that is similar but different. And it really does like remind me of that in a strange way. The art is great.
It's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's such a different look than
it's a lot more colourful.
Yeah, yeah.
We've got 5 environments in this one as well, whereas we could only afford 1 environment in the last one.
I mean, this is something I was actually wanting to talk about later, but I guess we'll kind of get into it. But there's I feel like a few years ago there was a lot of hostility to the idea of like sequels in video games. Like when people would talk about Call of Duty or Madden, they're like, oh, we're seeing the games over and over and they're all the same, yada, yada, yada. But something I've heard, I feel like more in recent years, especially from indie developers, is it's kind of a blessing to have the opportunity to really like have an idea and like kind of fall in love with it and then polish it and keep like adding on to that. And is that kind of what it's been like, working on this series?
Definitely.
Well, you learn a lot in the first one. So you learn what really worked and what didn't work, and then you can expand on that.
Do you find like having feedback from your fan base kind of helpful? Because I know people are pretty passionate about this game. The people who are into it get really hardcore.
Yeah, we did. Well, a few things that people mentioned about the Minis title, we included in the Vita version. So the fact that you can touch to teleport, we added. I mean, neither of us personally thought that was a particularly good idea, but because, well, I just think taking your hand off to touch to teleport, I find that fiddly. But a lot of people sort of requested it, so we put it in, and they're happy, and it works for them, so that's great.
Yeah.
What else did we change?
Bombs on right stick.
Oh yeah, people wanted the bombs on the right stick, so you can now do that, and that is awesome. That just,
yeah,
you can
But
destroy a lot quicker with that.
It's hilarious to me because when I play it, I am the person whose thumbs like going and using the touchscreen and the right stick and also the shoulder. So I love like I take maybe a weird pleasure in like having my hands just like wrestling with the Vita, but it's very enjoyable. I mean, it's such a funny thing. I know I look like probably a monster when I'm playing on an airplane and I'm like throwing my thing around and then getting demolished, but I don't know, it's kind of fantastic. So that's like a pretty early stage of what it looks like. I guess we'll kind of work our way up from there.
Yeah, it's a tricky game to kind of demo because there's so much in it. Like James kept coming over and going, oh, I think you should be able to do this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
But you have to teach people how to do it. So you can't have earlier levels where everything's in it so that people are not just like overwhelmed with it. So when you play the whole game, everything's dripped to you naturally. But then when we demo it, obviously we want to kind of show all the different bits.
Yeah. So also, I mean, if you can kind of explain what the numbers mean for people who haven't played the series before.
There are security systems that stop you from progressing to certain areas of the level, and they can be disabled by finding the switches and disabling those switches in the correct order. So here's switch number 2, which I can shoot, which opens that door and allows me to get to number 3 and then get back out into my ship, and there's number 4.
Yeah.
And now I'm able to get past this laser field that was blocking my path. So it's just a very simple action-based puzzle that just keeps the player thinking rather than just shooting stuff, essentially.
Now, do you enjoy like shmups and shoot 'em ups? Because I mean, I've always loved like Ikaruga and those sorts of games, and this feels, I don't know. On one hand, it feels more accessible. At the other hand, it's not an easy game by any means.
I'm personally not really a fan of shmups. I'd find them a bit too overwhelming. I'm just like, oh my god, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
I don't think you are particularly either.
I loved R-Type as a kid.
Yeah.
But since then, I didn't really like the way the genre was going with the bullet hell, and all you're doing is dodging essentially.
Yeah.
And I thought I wanted to make a game that kind of lived up to my memories of how R-Type felt when I was that age.
Yeah.
And just so the idea of the teleport actually came from Coconut Dodge as well, and the little crab. So the thing that made Coconut Dodge fun was there were 3 different speeds the crab had.
Yeah.
And the coconuts fell in patterns, certain mazes we called them, and you had to modify your speed in order to get through these patterns. And that was the thing that felt good about it. You were pressing a button, moving faster, letting go of the button to get to a certain position.
Yeah.
And so we just thought, well, let's use the same button, use the exact same mechanic, and just make the player teleport instead of move.
Yeah.
And that was it really. As soon as we had that, the soundtrack, the idea of making a shooter, and this idea of teleporting, it was quite easy then to kind of, that was the concept sorted of a teleporting spaceship, and so everything else kind of fell into place.
How has the studio changed, I mean, over the past couple of years?
Grown quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there were 3 of us that made Velocity, the minis title, and now there's 10 of us.
Wow.
So yeah.
I'm going to show you a secret area.
Oh, I've not seen that before. Yeah, so similar to the first game, there are bonus missions that you can unlock by picking up a gold crystal. Those little pink things are the standard version. There's gold ones of them dotted around, but they're all in like secret areas. So you've got to try and find them, and then you can unlock bonus levels.
Like, going back to the question about it being a sequel, and the fact that that's something that indies like, I can totally relate to that, because when you set out to make a game with 0 money and not a lot of time, you do the best you can with your resources, but ultimately you finish it and you go, I'm happy with the gameplay, but it looks like it could be improved. So to be able to make a sequel and go and get all the things that worked in the first game, but iterate and polish them, and this feels like a well-rounded product now. Something we're really proud of.
Do you still find that happening where there are ideas that are, I mean, like, obviously getting out of your ship is a big idea in terms of the game, where you're developing this game and you have this idea and you're like, oh my gosh, that's fantastic. It's so big. It just isn't possible right now.
Oh yeah.
But the second I have the chance, I'm going to go back and do that.
Yeah, there's lots of things like that. A lot of the ideas that were in this game actually were in the first game. We just didn't have time to do, like bosses and.
So this is new. You should explain this.
Yeah. So this is one of the features of the game where you can throw a telepod and teleport to it.
So yeah, he's using the touchpad on the DualShock.
How has it been working with Sony through all of this? Because, I mean, that's really interesting to me, too, that you started out on Minis, went to Vita, and here you are on PS4. I mean, that's...
Yeah, it's big, isn't it? We were
crazy.
like, whoa.
Yeah.
They've honestly been like a dream. They just trust us. They let us get on with it. They get really excited by everything we show them. They're super understanding, helpful.
Yeah.
Like, we demoed this at Eurogamer, and our producer came in on the Sunday on his day off to help us set the stand up and stuff. He didn't need to do that. It was, you know, they're absolutely great.
It started. So I've always been a bit of a. I wouldn't call myself a fanboy.
Yeah.
You would? Okay. So you can call me a fanboy if you like. But you know, I had a Walkman. That was my first, you know, experience of having music on the go, and obviously the first PlayStation and mini disc. I was a big mini disc.
Yeah.
You know, geek.
So was I.
Yeah. I've still got like tons of mini discs that I'll never use. So I've just been a fan of PlayStation. So it's been quite easy to really be passionate about supporting their platform.
Yeah.
And being very vocal in the press, I think, has probably helped us a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we've had an honest story about, you know, developers that are really passionate about working with a company like PlayStation and then getting the opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
It's, you know, but it all started when I read about Genova Chen.
Oh yeah.
Getting that 3-game deal out of university. Just,
Yeah.
oh my God. You know, what a dream.
Did you think it would work out like that? I mean, when you're reading that, you're really like, oh, that's what I'll do. I'll just make a mini and then a Vita game, and then I'll be on the PS4. No, it just makes sense.
Well,
We thought the minis title was bigger really than a minis title.
Yeah.
And then, because we were only able to make it on minis, we decided to try and make the best minis game possible. Which I kind of think we did.
Yeah. I think there's something nice about that. And also, like, I mean, showing almost a degree of patience of, like, working your way up. I mean, I don't know, there's something very, like, modest and humble about that progression that's nice.
Yeah, we've done a lot of...
a few times.
Yeah.
Let's get this right. Yeah, so the minis thing. Yeah, we just thought, at the time, there's quite a few developers in Brighton where we're from, and mobile studios that have been very successful making mobile games. And when we were, I need to get up there like that. When we were making Velocity, everyone we spoke to was saying, you know, you should be making a mobile game. Why are you messing about with the PSP?
Yeah.
And it's because, you know, Sony's a company, or PlayStation's a company that, you know, lives or dies on the strength of its content.
Yeah.
Apple don't care about that.
Yeah.
And so I thought, you know, if we make a great game that might not sell very well on PlayStation Minis because it wasn't a huge platform,
Yeah.
Sony's going to notice. If that game flops, Sony will still notice that we've made a quality game on their platform, and we just thought we'll put everything into it and see where we can go. And yeah, it's worked out.
That's interesting. Do you feel a bit vindicated now that especially mobile has seemed to have kind of changed that tune a little bit?
I feel like we're in a position now, because a lot of small studios moved to mobile, they left the market open for us,
Yeah.
which is nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, my pal Russ Rushnick, who I happen to work with, only likes games when they're impossibly difficult. And I think what he would be curious to know is, when you're making this game a difficult game like this, how do you know it's too hard? Because obviously, watching you play right now, you could destroy this game and humiliate anyone like, say, Russ Rushnick, who would like to think that he's good at the game, but actually isn't compared to you.
Do you want to answer that?
Yeah. So What we do, because there's a lot of content in this, what we do is for all of our games we have what we call a level matrix. It's an Excel spreadsheet and we have all the different features in the game. So for example, like Teledash, that pink gun that he's got there, the rifle, bomb flinging, etc. All these different controls and features that you'll find throughout the game. So we plot them across the top, and then we have all the levels that we want to make down the bottom. We kind of just pop a grid.
Yeah.
And the fact that we have these, like we have, each level has a kind of a different theme to it. So some are all about speed runs, doing them very quickly, and some of them are more I wouldn't say bullet hell, but they're more hostile based.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the more like exploratory ones. So we try and always make sure that the exploratory ones are where you learn a new skill, and then you kind of have a level afterwards, which is a bit of a speed run where you can kind of practice that skill. So we make sure that you know, there's a nice sort of curve in the spreadsheet of when you get bits and bobs. But then also, to answer your question more sort of specifically, the way we approach level design is I take all the earlier ones. I mean, I am not very good at Twitch games, which is why probably the earlier levels are much more accessible, because I have to be able to play them. Or I can empathise more with people coming into it with, you know, without really knowing what to do, etc. And then James starts at the end, so he'll start with level 50, and he'll put all his crazy ideas in. And then normally what happens is I come across, and he's like, look at this, look at what I've done. And I'm like, that's great. How anyone going to know how to do that? And then I make what I call like a Fisher-Price version of it. Okay. So like a simpler version of it in earlier levels, so that when the player comes to it, they feel like they already have an inkling of how to solve, you know, that particular issue.
Yeah.
And then we also play test, get people in, watch them play, get them to write down how many attempts each level took, how quickly, you know, their time at the end of it, basically, you know, their time, how many survivors they got, etc., etc. And from that we can kind of gauge where people got stuck, you know, if they've spent a particularly long time on one level, and we'll try and make that a bit easier, or maybe, you know, realise actually people got that, that's fine, so we can pump up the intensity a little bit,
Are there ever stages where the best players in the office can beat it, but you're like, sure, we can technically do this, but maybe it's a little too difficult?
All the time.
Yeah.
Mostly my levels. The thing is, I'm not very good at reaction-based games at all. I'm pretty good at memory games, because and so this game is a memory game. You learn the environment and you learn the muscle memory required to get through it quickly. Yeah. And as long as after 10 playthroughs you can ace it, that's all you really need. And so we just we design the levels so they feel rhythmical to play. Yeah. So we give the player cues.
We try and put things on beats so that players feel like they instinctively know what they need to do next. Like, you'll quite often have something where you're like, you know, you jump and then you slide and then you jump and then teledash or something. So you're kind of in the rhythm. You kind of, hopefully, a bit like dancing or something, you kind of feel like you know what you're going to be doing next, which makes the player feel a bit more powerful and in control. And
and from a design perspective, is that all just like feel, like experience, and you kind of just have a sense of like, this is how it should be?
Because of the rhythm, you know, you've got an innate rhythm, and you think, you know, I feel like I've like Kirsty said, I've got those beats, and sometimes, like, we've got one level currently that needs reiterating, where you teledash a lot and then you hit a wall, and that doesn't feel good, and you can't really explain why it doesn't feel good. You just need more space after you've done your last teledash to kind of live out that movement before you do the next thing, and so it's just getting that pace right.
So before we wrap up, I was hoping you could show us whatever the most insane thing is.
This is,
So I'm going to fling a bomb at the start and then chase the bomb.
So this is an example of one of James's ideas, which is great, but I was like, how would you know to do that? So we'll have a smaller version. Well, actually, they'll know now after seeing this.
And that, you know, teledash through a hazard. Pretty challenging.
The best thing is you can still talk. I figured at least you would like zone in, and that's all we've been seeing. You're like, oh no. Oh,
we've got speed pads in this game as well, so you can get faster than fast.
It's hypnotic, isn't it?
Yeah.
I always find afterwards, because we've switched now to the PS4 from the Vita. Well, we're working on the Vita as well, but when I look away, the screen, everything moves up. It's like that Guitar Hero effect.
I like that I can now tell that you were like not really trying when you were doing the rest of the demo.
See if I can get it perfect. So here's, if you get double and triple, you just get faster and faster. Job done.
That's ridiculous. That is a perfect showy performance of an ending for this. That's like the big grand finale of the musical. Thank you so much for joining us. It was really, really enjoyable. And you don't quite have a release date for it yet, but maybe this year, for sure?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
We've just got a few more levels to finish off and then do a general polish pass. And
I'm excited. I can't wait to play. Thank you again for joining us, and thank you for joining us. We will be here for Polygon Live all week at GDC. A few more shows coming your way. We'll see you next time. Bye.